Good evening and welcome to our broadcast tonight. This is the Daily Report with me, Victor Muyakane, and Rhoda Nyamai on sign language. This is at the end of a long and very momentous day, a day that has had all manner of debates, conjecture, point and counterpoint, views and reviews, as I like to say. Well, tonight we have a conversation where we would like to dissect the so-called broad-based cabinet and what this portends for where we are now and where we want to go as a country. So keep it right here for insight tonight later on that particular lane. But first, let's understand what else we have in store for you in the highlights.
And our position is with the people of Kenya, it's with the Gen Zs and the millennials who have paid the ultimate price, not positions from a failing regime.
Azimio blasts President Ruto for nominating ODM leaders to cabinet as the Kalonzo Kioni faction continues to exert pressure on Ruto's government. And the death toll from the anti-government protests has hit 60, according to the KNCHR report, as youth storm Nairobi's CBD for another round of protests. And President Ruto defends his cabinet appointments as he tours Tharaka Nithi on a development tour.
Mimi vilevile nimefanya mambo jana. Nimesema tuunde serikali ya kuunganisha Wakenya wote ndio tutembee safari moja.
And also tonight, violent youth clash at Ruai in Embakasi, leaving one hospitalized, a vehicle and motorcycle torched in a fiery confrontation. All that and so much more we have in store for you. Now, you need to interact with us. You need to tell us where you're watching us from and, more importantly, what your points or questions are. The SMS line is on top at the bottom corner of your screen. The WhatsApp number will be on the screen every now and then. And later on, we shall open up the phone lines to listen to you. But first, we begin. Tonight, unlike previous Thursdays when the Nairobi CBD and its environs came to a standstill following anti-government protests, today things were different for the better part of this Thursday. Most Kenyans enjoying their working conditions, albeit with fears of Gen Z protests disrupting things. And as Mike Kagongo reports, a section of human rights defenders emerged in the afternoon, prompting the arrest of activist Boniface Mwangi as police lobbed tear gas canisters to disperse the youth who staged an anti-government protest in the CBD. Let's take a look.
Stop killing us! Stop killing us! Stop killing us!
Another bleak Thursday in Nairobi's CBD.
We want justice! We want justice! We want justice!
Unyielding Gen Zs rock the city with yet another round of protests as the youth push for government again. Transport operations in the capital CBD went on uninterrupted, with most shops remaining open as Gen Z rock the city. Seemingly unfazed business operators displayed their anger towards previous protests, labeling them economic saboteurs.
But when you don't have any other way you can be listened, then demonstrations remains the only way you can call your leaders to really do what they are mandated to do.
Kujenga ni kazi, lakini kubomoa ni sikumo. Tusibomoe nchi yetu kwa sababu ya matakwa ya mtu.
In an effort to support families of those killed by police brutality during anti-government protests, activist Boniface Mwangi had previously called on Kenyans to demonstrate in large numbers, bearing flowers and the national flag. And at 2 p.m., activist Boniface Mwangi and Hussein Khalid of Haki Africa showed up at Mwindi Mbingu before activist Boniface Mwangi was manhandled, arrested and taken to Central Police Station. Boniface Mwangi Abdashif Kasmal Mukaure and Hussein Khalid of Haki Africa led the demonstrations, holding crosses with the names of those allegedly killed during demos, donning white t-shirts and Kenyan flags, symbolizing their solidarity with the families of the deceased. The protesters carried white coffins. Police officers, however, emerged and lobbed tear gas canisters, dispersing peaceful protesters. To unknown destinations, even as President William Ruto made a tough pronouncement on police brutality. The Kenya National Commission on Human Rights reported an increase in abducted Kenyans from 62 to 66, with a total of 47 protesters arrested. According to KNCHR, 27 more Kenyans were injured during the protest, making a total of 601 injured Kenyans. 60 deaths have so far been reported. Mike Kagwongo, TV47, Nairobi.
Also tonight, Azimio principals, led by Wiper leader Kalonzo Musyoka, have dismissed claims of joining the Kenya Kwanza government. They say that whoever considers taking that path will be making an individualistic step and not Azimio appearing to rather join the government. He was also echoing the sentiments of ODM leader Raila Odinga on the appointed members of the cabinet. Already, NARC Kenya leader Martha Karua has sent a notice of exiting the coalition following the current political developments. Our senior political reporter Elizabeth Mutuku reports.
A day after Raila's men made a move to join the ruling Kenya Kwanza government, a political duel and discord is again simmering within the political class, pitting Raila and his dalliance with President William Ruto. Azimio Brigade, led by Wiper leader Kalonzo Musyoka, in their address today insists the coalition is strong despite of the recent developments, and anyone joining the government will take that path individually and not a coalition, seemingly echoing ODM boss Raila Odinga's statement to the newsroom, which indicated the move by ODM members to join cabinet is not that of the party and there is no coalition agreement with the ruling party UDA.
As Azimio la Umoja, One Kenya, the coalition as of today has not received an indication or a notice to the effect that ODM will be pulling out or are pulling out of the coalition. If that happens, we'll deal with it at that time.
What is your individual say? Tell Kenyans that you are looking at the alternative government. What is before you today, and many others will be joining us.
The Azimio principals dismissing claims of working with the Kenya Kwanza government, insisting are not interested in any position in what they reiterated that the recent appointment to the ODM party members in the cabinet is made to destabilize opposition as well as propel him in his 2027 campaigns. Already, NARC Kenya leader Martha Karua has sent a notice of exiting the coalition following the current political developments.
Taken a position, and our position is with the people of Kenya, it's with the Gen Zs and the millennials who have paid the ultimate price, not positions from a failing regime.
Kwa hivyo hata sasa amefamia ODM, wao wenyewe kama kuna wale wataenda, hata kwa Jubilee wengine walienda na tu kukufa. Kenya bado iko na Gen Z wakatokea. Kwa hivyo mambo ya kustuka ya kwamba kama tuko ama huko, hiyo that's a non-issue. It is your personal conviction that keeps you going.
Earlier today, a section of ODM MPs distanced themselves from the appointments of ODM members to the cabinet by President William Ruto, stating that they will stand with Kenyans and especially Gen Z, condemning the move, terming it selfish.
You cannot have a coalition government with a few people, patches here and there, joining the government. You must sit down, draw a coalition agreement.
Cannot come out to fight for you, and then you behave like hyenas. Gen Zs died, people died, other Kenyans died because of this. You are not party to it. Why should you accept these positions? That is a show of greed.
Much awaited is to see how Azimio coalition will forge its way forward, considering the key positions held by the appointed ODM leaders in the National Assembly. Elizabeth Mutuko, TV47, Nairobi.
And as the dust is yet to settle on the latest political move to appoint ODM bigwigs into cabinet, President William Ruto has come out to defend the nominees. The head of state, who took to the skies to tour Tharaka Nithi and Mombasa counties, maintained that he will build a government of national unity.
A day after breaking his silence on the second batch of nominees, President William Ruto descended on county number 13, Tharaka Nithi, the hometown of Interior Docket nominee, a professor of law, Kithure Kindiki. The head of state embarked on matters national unity, this stemming from the broad-based government he said he would build, evidenced by the entry of Raila's men in cabinet.
Mimi vile vile nimefanya mambo jana. Nimesema tuunde serikali ya kuunganisha Wakenya wote ndio tutembee safari moja. Mnasema tuungane ama tutengane? Tuungane ama tutengane?
President Ruto did not shy away from defending his new cabinet nominees.
Na katika hiyo serikali mimi nimeunda jana mpya. Huyu Profesa Kindiki ataendelea kuwa waziri wa usalama wa taifa letu la Kenya. Mtu akifanya kazi sina anaongezewa. Huyu Profesa Kindiki amesukumana na magaidi mpaka magaidi wametoroka. Amepigana ako area hapa. Amepigana na wale bandits walikuwa wanasumbua watu kule North Rift. Mpaka bandits wametoroka, tumefungua mashule.
President Ruto was flanked by a host of other elected leaders, including his deputy Rigathi Gachagua, Governor Muthomi Njuki, and others.
Mheshimiwa Rais, umefanya vile inastahili. Umefika pahali unapendwa, pahali unaungwa mkono. Katika kura iliyopita, Tharaka Nithi ndio county ilikuwa namba 1 kupigia wewe kura katika Mlima Kenya. Na kwa hivyo ukija hapa kwa mambo ya maendeleo, you are in the right place at the right time, serving the right people for the right reason.
In the caravan was Interior CS nominee Kithure Kindiki, who is making a comeback after months of turmoil.
Jambo ya pili na ya mwisho ni kukushukuru vile vile kwa sababu umeleta serikali ya umoja wa kitaifa, na sasa nchi yetu, mimi nikiwa waziri wako wa usalama wa taifa, kwa sababu ya ile umoja umeleta, sasa tuna nafasi nzuri ya kupata maendeleo na nchi yetu itaendelea kusonga mbele.
The president later headed to Mombasa County, the home ground of former Governor Ali Hassan Joho, who has also been appointed to the cabinet. George Maringa, TV47, Nairobi.
Tonight as well, the nomination of Azimio leader Raila Odinga's ODM allies into President William Ruto's cabinet is a culmination of a 2-year journey triggered by deadly street protests over the 2022 disputed election results and the high cost of living. The arrival of former Nigerian President Olusegun Obasanjo and U.S. Senator Chris Coons setting the stage for a truce, a handshake and a broad-based government. Apollo Kamau tells us more.
The nomination of ODM leader Raila Odinga's men in President William Ruto's broad-based government has not been a walk in the park in Odinga's fourth handshake, but has left in its wake a trail of betrayal and admiration in equal measure.
Ruto has nominated the top leadership of one of our constituent parties, ODM, to his cabinet. With this move, he has attempted to destroy multi-party democracy and seize control of the parliamentary system. Additionally, Ruto is working to silence the voices of the opposition, both inside and outside of parliament.
Former Prime Minister. Signs that Odinga was already in government emerged during the signing of the IEBC bill into law at the KICC, where 3 of ODM cabinet nominees, Hassan Joho, Wycliffe Oparanya, and Opiyo Wandayi, flanked the president and Odinga, where the president announced his resolve to form a broad-based government. Preceding the KICC meeting almost 2 years back was the Azimio protests over the disputed 2022 election results and the high cost of living that threatened to tear down the nation, forcing former Nigerian President Olusegun Obasanjo to fly in to Mombasa in July last year, where he met Ruto and Odinga.
Welcome to Kenya. This place is called Moranga.
After Obasanjo united the two sides, the meeting resolved to form a 10-member bipartisan team, headed by Wiper Party leader Kalonzo Musyoka and Majority Leader in the National Assembly Kimani Ichung'wah. In August last year, U.S. Senator Chris Coons, instrumental in the Odinga-Uhuru handshake in 2018, met President William Ruto at State House, Nairobi, over the Kenya Kwanza Azimio talks and later met Odinga. Obasanjo was later to arrive in February this year, meeting Ruto and Odinga separately on the Azimio Leader African Union Commission chairmanship bid. President Ruto was later to announce his meeting with Odinga in Museveni's Kisozi farm in Uganda over Odinga's African Union Commission endorsement. The split in the Azimio camp sets a stage for new political realignments ahead of the 2027 polls as Ruto and Odinga face off with Kalonzo and his allies. Apul Kamau, TV47 in Nairobi.
In other news, police are investigating an incident where 2 groups of rowdy youth clashed at the Ruai Embakasi Ranch in an incident that saw a motorcycle and another vehicle burnt to ashes, which also left 1 person nursing panga-cut wounds at Kenyatta Hospital.
It's a question of ownership and a battle of superiority. As 2 rival groups clashed in Ruai Embakasi ranching, setting a car and a motorcycle ablaze and leaving 1 individual nursing machete injuries. The plot thickens as witnesses recount a fierce conflict over a quarry at Gatie, once a cemetery.
Kuna watu wamekuja na gari 3. Wakashuka wakaanza kusema ni sisi, wakashuka na mapanga. Sasa mimi venye niliona mapanga, mimi nilihepa. Beste yangu dereva akaachwa hapo, wakaanza kumvamia.
Sasa unaona vile walikam na sisi wao vile walitupigia, tukapigiwa tukaambia kuna watu wanakatakatwa na huko juu. Si naye tukatoka ofisi, tuna ofisi na hapo. Sio tukapanda. Sasa kupanda tukasikia wamekatakata mtu hapo na wameteremka na huko chini. Naye sisi tukapiga simu na huko chini. Tukawapigia tukawaambia watu wametoka hapa na wamekatakata mtu na nyinyi watu wetu wengine walikuwa na huku chini.
These 2 enraged groups have brought decades of pent-up anger to a head. Police are on high alert, investigating deeper into the mystery, while locals call for peace, urging a ceasefire to avoid further bloodshed over land disputes.
Sasa tungependa tu amani. Tunaona amani kwanza katikati ya vijana. Juu tunaona vijana ndio kama sahihi, nasikia kuna kijana ameumia, vijana ndio wanaumia.
OCPD Ruai, Patricia Yegon, has confirmed the arrest of 2 suspects in connection with a serious assault case. Mazden Wambugu, TV47.
If approved by Parliament, John Mbadi Ngongo will sit at the helm of one of the most troubled and taxing ministries in this country. However, while Treasury and Planning sits squarely in the skill set of this certified public accountant, it seems, the ministry recently headed by the 2-term CBK governor, Professor Njuguna Ndung'u, has a shortage of funding and a long list of expenses. And now that the finance bill has been officially dropped, one must wonder, just how will Mbadi wade through these murky waters? Hibak Saeed takes a dive into this report.
As fate would have it, John Mbadi, the Member of Parliament for Gwasi constituency, now finds himself in the very hot seat he once so harshly criticized.
We may need to start
getting our acts together.
Poetic justice.
Bring your people, diehards, Mbadis of this world, complete diehards.
The National Treasury and Ministry of Economic Planning, located in this very building, is arguably the beating heart of the government. Tasked with dispensing funds to all ministries and agencies, this daunting role presents quite a challenge for the potential CS. Although the budget reading wasn't too long ago, the Kenya Kwanza government's extensive list of potential expenses faced a significant setback when the finance bill was unanimously rejected. This has left a funding gap of hundreds of millions, with the Treasury advising on potential cuts and a supplementary budget exceeding 1 trillion shillings. Mastering this delicate balancing act will be essential for the potential CS Mbadi, especially given the various cuts enacted by Parliament in devolved units. It won't be long before the issue of pending bills makes its presence felt. Hibak Said for TV47.
To be clear, folks, Mr. Mbadi was the Member of Parliament for Gwasi, but his current position before nomination was one of a nominated Member of Parliament. In other news, the controversial Finance Bill 2024 has finally been withdrawn from Kenya's Parliament. This is after MPs dropped the bill due to refusal by the President to sign it into law. In contrast, Majority Leader Kimani Ichung'wah argues that withdrawing the Finance Bill 2024 will deny other people benefits that they stood to enjoy while the bill was alive.
The National Assembly has finally reached an agreement with President William Ruto on the controversial Finance Bill of 2024, following a series of demonstrations against the bill.
Following this decision, the bill has been rejected in its entirety. I wish to clarify that the import of the decision of the House is that the bill is lost. Consequently, no provision that was contained in the bill shall have any legal effect.
In a decisive move, MPs voted to delete all 65 clauses of the finance bill as requested by President Ruto. Majority Leader Kimani Ichung'wah noted that the bill had potential benefits for hustlers, particularly regarding the clause on income tax and ETRS. The intention was to exempt small-scale traders like Mama Mbogas from using ETRS when filing their returns.
Anyone who is required to file their returns using ETIMs, Honorable Speaker, they are going to be exempted. And especially for our farmers and micro enterprises, Honorable Speaker.
Ichung'wah emphasized that the bill aimed to provide relief to traders whose gross income is below 1 million shillings. He also argued that many Kenyans were misled into believing the bill proposed adding VAT to essential items, including cancer medication. Ichung'wah clarified that there was no VAT on cancer drugs.
What was there was the financing of cancer treatment to be absolutely free for Kenyans. That is lost today, Honorable Speaker.
The motion to delete the clause was introduced by Majority Leader Kimani Ichung'wah and seconded by South Migurango MP Silvanus Osoro. Osoro, who previously voted in favor of the bill, remains unapologetic and stated he would vote the same way if the bill were introduced. Consequently, there is no bill for the Speaker to present to His Excellency the President to assent.
That in such scenarios, you communicate emptiness, you communicate a blank bill and say we've agreed with you, and that then becomes the standard procedure, Honorable Speaker. But what the honorable members are asking, what do you take back to the President?
I'll convey to him a message.
To complete the process contemplated under Article 115 of the Constitution, the Speaker of the National Assembly will convey the decision made by the House to His Excellency, President William Ruto. Paul Kirobi, TV47, Nairobi.
The Director General of Health nominee, Dr. Patrick Amoth, has committed to resolving the persistent human resource conflicts that have plagued healthcare workers, promising to address the issues that often lead to industrial strikes, such as the placement of intern doctors. He said this while appearing before a joint parliamentary vetting committee on health, where he faced opposition on his quest to clinch the position of Director General for Health. This is despite serving in the very position, in an acting capacity for more than 4 years now. Anne Odida with the details.
Appearing before the Joint Committee of the National Assembly Departmental Committee on Health and the Senate Standing Committee on Health, Dr. Patrick Amoth, a man who has been acting as a Health Director General for almost 5 years now, took to stage to defend his outstanding CV, advocating for proper resourcing of the Kenya Health Human Resource Advisory Council in order to ensure it fulfills its mandate.
What I do regarding the dual fiscal space is to be able to optimize resources that are available through development of multidisciplinary teams that can be able to offer healthcare services through the primary care networks.
The council, established under the Health Act of 2017, is tasked with standardizing the posting of interns, managing inter-county transfers of healthcare professionals, and overseeing the welfare and service schemes for health professionals across various levels of government. Narok Senator Ledama Olekina weighed in, defending Amoth's focus on human resources, calling it a long-standing issue that has affected the healthcare sector, emphasizing on the importance of treating interns well in order to ensure that they remain motivated and committed to their roles. This discussion follows a recent strike by doctors and clinical officers, which highlighted the critical need for robust management and support systems in the healthcare sector. The Pukose-led committee, however, questioned Amoth's sentiments during the clinical officers' long strike, where he allegedly said that the cadre should be done away with. However, in his defense, Amoth said the sentiments were based on an interview in media houses following the doctor's strike, trashing the sentiments in its entirety, saying he is fit to serve. Amoth, however, faced opposition from Dr. Wahome Ngare, who questioned his suitability for the role of Director General of Health. Ngare accused Amoth of supporting unethical medical practices and lacking the independence to protect Kenyan interests against international influences.
So that is the connection, that he was willing to have this document lodged under the Ministry of Health as a guideline, is evidence that he supports the unethical termination of pregnancy.
In his defense, Dr. Amoth highlighted his reliance on scientific guidance during the COVID-19 pandemic and reaffirmed his commitment to patient-centered healthcare. While he awaits his fate regarding the Director General position, he has been serving in the same in an acting capacity for over 5 years. Anne Odida, TV47.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us up to this point. We want to take a short break. When we come back, we will have our discussion on insight. Tonight, we are dissecting, which means we're cutting into it and spreading it open and finding out exactly what's going on with this broad-based cabinet. Please keep it right here on TV47. The SMS line, the WhatsApp number, and the phone lines will be on your screen as we proceed. You can also talk to us through X. My handle is @Muyakane, my name. You will be able to reach me on there, as well as our handle @TV47 News on Twitter, please, or X for that matter. Keep it right here. We'll be right back.
Hey there friends, welcome to Kids on the Block, where fun and imagination come alive. We dive into magical world filled with exciting adventures and awesome friends.
What position were you in?
I was number 2.
What position were you?
Number 1.
he decided to cross the bridge by his house and look for food on the other side.
We're going to do half cup of chocolate chips, and the other one, we're going to do half cup of the blueberries.
So, grab your imagination hats and get ready to explore with us. Join us every Saturday at 9 a.m. for new friends, amazing stories, and tons of laughter.
Join us as we explore the journeys of those who defy the odds and break barriers. We dive deep into the stories of triumph.
Sometimes when parenting a child with a special need or whatever disability, family life becomes a bit complicated and you may end up raising the child on your own.
Here, we inspire.
I have a farm which one we showcase with other dyslexic youths and autism, how to farm.
Motivate.
It's never easy, but what we do, the best thing is to work with another parent who has an elder child than yours.
And break through the barriers one story at a time. Push your boundaries beyond the limit. Saturdays at 8 p.m. The Grind, where business meets brilliance. It's not just about the ideas.
I was working as a shampoo boy. I used to wash clients' hair on the sink.
It's about making them happen. From big wins.
In primary school, when we would be asked what people want to be, I was categorical that I want to be a nurse.
To hard lessons.
The consoles change, the gaming equipment keep changing.
We cover it all. Tune in to The Grind, where every episode is packed with insights.
The person who is serving customers, always be a customer-centric.
Strategies.
When you pay attention to detail, you get luxury items.
And stories to fuel your ambition. Don't just dream it, grind it. Mondays at 7:30 p.m.
All right, welcome to Insight Tonight, and we are attempting to dissect this broad-based government that we've had, this new cabinet that was proposed by the President William Samoei Ruto. We want to understand exactly what are the underpinnings of this decision. We also want to understand exactly what this portends for our country, Kenya, and where it is that we want to go. And joining me tonight to help break this down is a team of experts of different insights and perspective. Right here to my right, we have Madam Wanjohi Njoroge.
Yes.
Karibu sana. She is a youth consultant, youth and nature consultant, I should say. She also wears quite a few hats, matter of fact. Karibu sana.
Thank you for having me.
On the other side is engineer Victor Okuna, who also wears many hats. He is a governance and political analyst. Karibu sana. As well as being an engineer in renewable energy.
Yeah.
Karibu sana.
Okay.
Folks, let's look at this thing. A few highlights. First of all, a few things have changed. Number one, not in any order of seniority or importance, but we have fewer women in this cabinet than before. We also have more technocrats than in the previous one. I think we're up to 5. Previously we had 2. We had Professor Ndongo and Madam Miano. We also have a new dimension, a new perspective. We have ODM inside the cabinet. Is it a throwback to somewhere in the 2000s? We will decide that. Another element is what that means for the party of ODM. Another interesting thing about this is that out of the 22 cabinet secretaries that were sent home, we've had about 12 of them come back. And I understand there's still one or two more positions to fill. We'll see about how that goes. But also, many portfolios have remained unchanged. Nothing really has changed in that regard. I would like to get just your opening remarks. What were your impressions of this announcement when it came? Let's start with you, Victor. They say ladies first, but men before. Take it away. Quick as you can. What were your impressions?
Thanks, Vic. I think my impression on these appointments is that it was something that was done to bring down the effect of Gen Zs. There's nothing much, but because there was a political temperature rising up from Gen Z's demands, then I think President Ruto decided, oh, let us now neutralize these Gen Zs by bringing these functions together so that their factions can deal with their Gen Zs and our functions can deal with our Gen Zs. Otherwise, I don't see much things to be done because they are the same people who have been relocated from one forest to another forest.
All right, all right. What about you, Wanjohi?
I think for me, first, it was utter shock and disappointment. I think the president had such a beautiful opportunity to clean up his cabinet and start afresh and convince Kenyans that he is ready to start afresh. He's actually committed to rebuilding the country, and I think we have such a beautiful opportunity to now move to the next level. And so to see him take it lightly, it was very, very disappointing. We are at a point where we've lost trust with government, we've lost trust with the executive, we've lost trust with the legislature. I would have expected him to at least make an effort to restore that trust. Looking at that cabinet, it has not met the 2/3 gender principle. It has not met, it only has one person below 32. It doesn't have any person with disability. You've talked about ODM, for instance. We have completely weakened and killed the opposition in the National Assembly, in the Senate, and some of the crucial counties like Mombasa and Nairobi. So I think for me, I'm a very worried person, seeing that he's taken lightly the opportunity that he was given by young people and other Kenyans across the country.
All right. So let's actually get into it. Engineer Okuna, you say that, in your opinion, you think he did this to counter or to neutralize the pressure from Gen Zs. Is it really accurate? Is it the right call? And I want you to jump into this when Joe here after he's done. Is it the right call? Because this is not what the Gen Zs were asking for. The Gen Zs wanted new faces. They wanted more technocrats, people with actual skill and training in the positions that were nominated for. This looks like it looks like a bit of a mismatch to the expectation. How do you think this will neutralize the Gen Z temperature?
First, Victor, I think Gen Zs did something that has taken us about 60 years plus to do, and they achieved it in less than 2 weeks. And to me, Gen Zs did something that rescued Kenyans from an oppressive government that was doing something we call DIY operation, surgery, on our pockets, actually is empty pockets. And the oppressors were trying to bring in some bills, like the finance bill, to further make sure that you and me give them more money to get more lavish life, so that tomorrow they are on the air. I know we've had the president and ministers who are ever on the roads, either on the road or flying. For the first time, we've seen almost in 1 month plus, there's no one who is going out on lavish lifestyle.
Actually, there's one tweet, you should call them, a guy called Alex Mwanzo on Twitter who said, have people actually imagined the amount of money that has been saved in unnecessary travel?
And that is why I'm saying that Gen Z have saved us. These guys wanted to have some surgery, the last surgery on our pockets, so that little money you still own, as you, Victor, was going to be given in more taxes. And these taxes were not going to assist you anywhere. These taxes were just ensuring that we have more flights, we have more spending on things that are not really assisting you and me as Kenyans. So I really applaud Gen Zs that what they have done It has taken Kenyans over 60 years and we've not achieved. And on that doing that, we've lost a number of lives. And it will be very sad for me to be here to just appreciate what they did without me just acknowledging those who really perished. And actually we say, from my heart, I say I'm very sorry for the families and relatives who lost their loved ones because they were fighting for the rights of Kenyans. Wherever they are, may God give them that comfort. And I'm very sure one day, it may not be today or tomorrow, but one day somebody will be held responsible for these lives that were lost.
All right.
In the appointments of the cabinet, actually I can say that the president in our constitution has the rights to appoint anyone he wants. And the president also in the constitution has the authority to reappoint. There's no word called reappointment in our constitution. So if I appoint you today and then dismiss you tomorrow, I can still reappoint you because that dismissal can only be verified by the parliament. If the parliament has verified that you are not fit to hold any office, then the president cannot reappoint you. But if the president goes ahead and says that I've dismissed you, that is a political statement. So whatever the president said some 2 weeks ago on dissolving of the 20 cabinet secretaries, those were mere political statements that nobody, no Kenyan, somebody who has gone to school and really understand what the law says and the constitutions, those ones were mere and political statements that cannot be taken anywhere in the court of law. So what he's doing, he can't reorganize his cabinet, say a cabinet, he can reappoint anyone, but what he really needs to consider are these people I'm reappointing, are they technocrats? Do they have any graft cases? So that when we get to a new era, we start afresh. This was a time, actually it was a turning point for the president to ensure that he starts afresh and with the people who can move this country to another level.
Quick answer, yes or no. Do you think this turning point, did he seize it properly? Has he utilized this moment properly?
No.
All right. You will tell us why.
Yeah.
Wanjohi, he said, and quite a lot of people feel that way, that this was in a manner of neutralizing the pressure from the Gen Zs. First of all, is that an accurate description? Second, is it from his point of view, or at least from a political point of view, is that really a response that's likely to neutralize this? Are the Gen Zs neutralized?
Unfortunately not. First, we need to appreciate that this movement wasn't initiated by the opposition leader or the former opposition leader, Raila Amolo Odinga. This is Kenyans, in majority being the Gen Z generation, that initiated this movement. And so there is no way we can say that calling him to the table or having a handshake is going to neutralize. However, Kenyans are very disappointed. Personally, I'm very, very disappointed. I was very disappointed yesterday because I was hoping against hope that Raila, somebody who has fought for multi-party democracy, who suffered police brutality, whose family has been turned upside down when fighting for multi-party democracy, would actually stand with Kenyans. So majority of us are actually heartbroken. Those of us who followed him and respected and admired him are actually disappointed. But I promise you that this is not the end of it. What this coming together, and we are calling it the unity of the political class or unity of greed, has done is increase our anger. Because the president had an option of doing the right thing, operating within the confines of the Constitution, but he chose to, most importantly, weaken the Constitution, weaken the opposition. Now, any bill they want to pass, and a good example is what happened in Parliament today. They defunded something like blood transfusion for 200 million and approved the First Lady and the Second Lady's funding. These are unconstitutional offices. So that tells you there is no separation of power as enshrined in our Constitution. So we don't have a parliament. There is no clear separation of power between the executive and the legislature. These two are together. It means any bill they want to pass, they will pass. What stops them from passing the next finance bill that is tabled by quote-unquote ODM? So this has angered us more, but remember, we've had success. The finance bill, we went to the streets and we had the first liberation on the 25th of June, exactly a month ago. And that has proven to us that when we come together and unite as Kenyans, anything is possible. And so it is the people versus the ruling class or the political class. And I doubt there is a better moment to be alive and to be Kenyan than this. So, of course, the spirits may be down, but tunalamba glucose. Na tunaendelea.
I can say on something before you proceed on the neutralization. Actually, it's not that they have neutralized, it's not that they were attempting to neutralize. No, they were thinking that when I do this and I do this, I can counter what these Gen Zs are doing. But what I can assure you, Victor, Gen Zs have put up a force that we can be equivalent to almost a 16-cylinder turbocharged engine. That force that thrust them towards inside the parliament. And that force, I can assure you today, can do anything. So whether ODM or any other party march with the government of the day, if they are not going to be accountable, if they are not going to do what the Gen Zs are doing, because I'm also a millennium, then I will just still call the Gen Zs and the millennium. Let us come out, all of us, and ensure that there is accountability. Me, I was there on June. I was in the parliament.
You're inside?
Yeah, no, I was not inside. But I was at the street. I also went out to exercise my right.
Who suspiciously looks like you. Let me ask a question. We captured on CCTV. Let me ask you a question on a point that both of you have actually made. We have ODM members, key figures, very vocal, very, you'd argue, very anti-Kenya Kwanza people, previously, their stances, showing up on the list of nominees. And get this, immediately after the nomination, they all equally sent their messages thanking the president for the nomination and accepting the nominations. Here's a question. Is the president actually weakening the opposition? Or is it a case of willing buyer and willing seller?
It is both. It is a case of willing seller, willing buyer, because I think it was John Mbadi who went and in a political rally over the weekend, he said that he would be a minister had they won the last election. So this probably was an aspiration of his. And so when this was offered to him, he took it and grabbed it with both hands. But I also think that politically, the president is being very, very calculative in that he's looking at 2027. Remember now, this Gen Z movement, all those who are unregistered voters will come out in large numbers to register to vote and want to vote this government out. So imagine a combination of Gen Zs and millennials and all the other generations that are very tired of the previous ruling class, including the current administration. So I think the president is planning ahead and preparing for 2027, in that if he brings together, let's say, the Nyanza region, the Luo Nyanza region, the Western Bloc, and bring them together, he's convinced that they can still win. But it's quite unfortunate, given that this is a new Kenya, and what happened in the month of June has proven to us that the Kenya we desire is within reach. But I'm also trying to encourage all the people, all generations that are tired of this ruling class, that at times, you know, there's a Bible saying that says that it will be easier for the camel to enter in the hole of the needle than some people, some sinners. Similarly, where we are going next, I would say that God is trying to, for those of us who are believers, is trying to separate the people who will be part of the next level. Like Moses was told, that is a promised land. You will see it, but you will not get there. There are those who will see it, but they will not get there. And it's important for us to separate. And we must thank the Gen Z and everybody who has participated in this movement, because they have exposed certain leaders like Raila Amolo Odinga. We are heartbroken right now, but we appreciate, we are grateful that this has happened, because he's not a reliable person. We've now come to appreciate that he's not somebody we can count on. All those leaders, I mean, someone like John Mbadi, I remember during the vetting of the members, the ministers who've been fired, right. I remember him saying that he has,
the president,
you know, and now he's joined that particular group of people. You know, so, but we now know that he will choose his personal interest, his selfish personal interest over the common good. Because can you imagine if the opposition remained in opposition? It's unfortunate that we have leaders who take our constitution very, very lightly, because the role of oversight, the role of opposition, they drive GK vehicles. And I think it's time that they return those vehicles back to government, because they are now part of government.
Okay, Victor, just as you're coming in, what message does it send when the chairman of the biggest opposition party, the biggest party in the opposition coalition, actually accepts a nomination into the government that he's supposed to oppose, like what you're saying? You have the minority whip as well. You have one of the major principles in Azimio in form of Mr. Opara. You have all these. You have former Governor Joho and so on. What message? What's a game here? What's the objective here?
Victor, I want to say that political parties are run by ideologies. That is what really makes a political party. ODA, which is the ruling party, is run with an ideology of bottom up. That is what made ODA. ODM has its own ideologies. During the campaigns, the ODM first say that the bottom-up economy isn't sustainable, and it is something that cannot work. So when they have their own ideologies, and then this is another party of a totally different ideologies, and then they merge together without any framework that has been put in place, then I'm telling you that these are just people with their own egos joining hands to loot more. If these guys wanted to form a government, then they could have maybe had a month and have a session of paper to describe exactly what they want to do. Because this is a chairman of a party, of ODM, that has their own ideologies. Then you are coming in to join the order that has their own ideologies. These people will not, they will always have some rough terrains.
Actually, let's talk about that. I thank you for bringing that up. There are very divergent views on how to deal with Kenya,
yes.
As witnessed in the campaigns, what you're saying, the ideologies. How do you envision, now that this has happened, now that assuming Honorable Mbadi and the rest are actually vetted and approved, and then they're actually appointed and sworn in, talk to me about how this cabinet will get along, first of all, with such divergent political ideologies and divergent aims and views. How do you envision that working out?
No, I don't see any smooth ride here. I can assure you, I've just told you that these are people who have come together to continue looting. Where there's something to loot, they'll come together. But now where there's policy to be administered, then they're now starting pulling apart. So it's going to be a rough ride, and until such a time that now we'll come and say that this is the country we need, and now we want to do 1, 2, 3. Of which even the first thing that maybe a policy that can be done is on the issue of water. We have a lot of problems with the water in this country. We have a mess in the energy. So before we appoint anyone from another party, then we could have had a national dialogue and say that these are the problems that is ailing us at the moment. If it is accountability of 1, 2, 3, as you, Victor, then we identify that the problem that is affecting us today is accountability. So we first of all ensure that we sit down and say that these are the key issues that is affecting us. And you see, the issue that affects us has no boundary. It can't be sorted out with any party. So then they come together, they merge together and say that these are the issues we're going to work on. But when a political party is from this one and merges with this one because of appointment, without any clear intention, without any direction, and then you hear that there's a division, then I tell you that these people who have been nominated, they have no goodwill for Kenyans, but they have their own self-interest, of which their self-interest is to make money and to make a kill, and Kenya goes on.
I think there's a part I disagree. The political parties in Kenya claim to have ideologies, but in reality, those political parties are formed because of personal interests. The ODM party, we know the person who is behind the ODM party. When it comes to UDA, we know the person who is behind UDA. And that has been the case for a very, very long time. And then when you look at our coalitions, we form coalitions to win elections, not because of people's interests and people's ideology. And that is why I'm saying I think them coming together is a good thing. We may feel hurt and betrayed and all, but it's a good thing. They needed to come together so that we realize we're on our own and we now start thinking about the next election. Are we ready for it? I already said that we need to start registering for the next election. Anyone who is above 18 years, and today the court has suspended the issuance of Maisha card, which is a good thing. Now we are reverting back to the old ID cards until the court can pronounce itself. So the next thing that we must ask ourselves is who are our leaders and what political vehicles are we going to use? What political parties are we going to form? And I believe the political party that we form is a political party that is informed by ideologies, that is informed by the well-being of the people, because we have that opportunity and we have time to prepare, we have time to mobilize across the country. There are people who have already volunteered. The same way we have united and done civic education on many bills, not just the finance bill. It's the same way we are going to mobilize people to register for this particular political party. But we have an opportunity to now start afresh. We will have to work with other people who've gone ahead of us, and of course there are people who have very, very clean records, and we must also remember that there is no perfect person, there is no perfect leader, just as there is no perfect person. But I think it's a wonderful opportunity. Let them come together, and they're going to mess up. The first fight they're going to have is internal fights. Between the leadership of Kenya Kwanza, the leadership of ODM and the other party, Azimio, you know, so they'll start fighting amongst themselves. And once you see your enemy trying to hang themselves, please get them the strongest rope so that they can quickly do what they want to do. But I think we must, as Kenyans of all generations who want to see a better Kenya, must come together now and start asking ourselves, even as we continue putting pressure, even as we remain vigilant, because we are now the official opposition party of this country, even as we remain vigilant, how are we preparing ourselves? Because the next thing that we must occupy is Huduma Center, is Nyayo House for our IDs, for instance.
You know, there's a point that came from somebody who was on social media, and he said that it looks like there's an us versus them mentality, with the us being the Gen Zs, and then the movement that is all about accountability and so on and so on, and them meaning anyone who doesn't support that, anyone who appears to hold any sort of support or sympathy or alignment or alliance with the ruling coalition. Right now it's essentially a coalition. Here's a question. What happens to the people who still, at this point, still support this government? The people who were clapping when Honorable Mbadi, when Honorable Wandai, or when Honorable Oparanya, when Honorable Joho, when Honorable Tuya, when Honorable Duale, when Honorable Murkomen, you name it, when they were announced as nominees, those people who are celebrating, those guys, the guys who still believe, the president was out today in Tharaka Nithi and in Mombasa, those guys who came out, those guys who cheered, those guys who appeared to still support this government. What happens to them? What about them? Where does all this leave them?
I think personally I will say we are all Kenyans. And they are late bloomers. There are people who convert immediately, and there are those who take time. And it's important to appreciate that we are coming from somewhere, and we have not even left where we have been. Remember, our politics for the longest time have been influenced by Mtuwetu politics. So when somebody from my village is elected, is appointed to serve in the cabinet, that is our person, you know. For the longest time, that has been the order of the day. And so when, say, John Badi is appointed, when Tuya is appointed, when all these people are appointed, their people celebrate. But I think with time, this will change, because we'll pause and ask, we'll get to a point, like now coffee is suffering. I come from a coffee growing area. We have all these leaders. How are they benefiting us? You know, for the longest time, we have gone we've formed coalitions based on the votes that I'm bringing. So I come from the Mount Kenya region. I will come and say that I have brought the Mount Kenya vote. I have come with the entire basket. What am I getting? But you're not talking about the entire region. You're actually talking about yourself. So we will constantly have these conversations, and I'm also pleading with the media, particularly vernacular media stations, that let us allow ourselves to have these very uncomfortable conversations, real conversations, and say we have 7 members, we have 7 cabinet secretaries, for instance, from Mount Kenya region. How have we benefited from having these cabinet secretaries? So it goes beyond just having cabinet secretaries, you know, coming from your region. It is what are they doing, not just for your region, but for the entire Kenya. You have these members of parliament elected into parliament. You have these MCAs elected into the county assembly. You have this governor elected as the governor of your county, but how have you benefited from this governor? So this mentality will take time. It's not something, it's not like a switch where you switch on and switch off. They are still Kenyans. They are relatives, they are parents, they are our siblings, they are our cousins, they are, you know, so these are all part of. And then remember, poverty is a very big factor, contributing factor. Maybe those people who came out were given 200 shillings. 200 shillings is a packet of unga for someone. So they'll think, why not? I'm going to clap and then I get a packet of unga. Remember, this handout mentality has also influenced our voting outcome. The night of elections, the agents don't sleep. You have your section, you go and take unga to influence tomorrow's voting. So a lot of things will take time, but that we are making progress is still impressive, and we must celebrate that in itself.
Right.
I think, Victor, politics in Kenya has been marred by tribal cocoons. That is what is really ailing us. So when you see President Ruto going to Meru today, he went there with Professor Kindiki, and what he said to the locals, look, this is your person. So that is the kind of tribal politics that is just undermining any kind of development that we're gonna have. Because the moment you come and present to us that now, look, this is your person, what the president is telling the locals is that you need to give him support because he has appointed your person from your region. So whether that person is not going to perform, that is none of his business. And that is exactly what has made Kenya to be where it is. We don't want to have people in selected that have given your people or your community someone or how many posts. We need a country where those who are appointed, those who are elected, are accountable to the people they are serving. When we do that, the president will not come to our place and tell me, look, I've given you 1, 2, 3 people to serve. No, they'll come and say, the people we appointed have done 1, 2, and 3. Those 2 things are very different. When I come to your community and tell you, look, I've appointed Peter, and Peter comes from your community. But next time, when I come to you and tell you, I appointed Peter and he has brought you roads, I appointed Peter and he has brought you water, I appointed Peter and he has brought you this and this. So let us not see what the president brings to you in terms of appointment, but let us see the work that is done on the ground through the people that the president has appointed.
All right, so starting with you, Victor, talk to me about when you look at this cabinet, is there an opportunity that you can see for Kenya? Is there a chance for any positive thing to come out of this cabinet for Kenya? From the way it looks, from the people that are in there, are you expecting anything out of them? And if so, what?
I've tried to analyze each and individual person forming the 19 people that were appointed. I've tried to look at this engineer was appointed in water. Definitely he's not been a public figure, but he might perform. What might undermine him are now the junior peers. You know, this country also has problem with the peers. You can have your CS, but when the president has appointed another PS that will undermine his boss, then that PS now becomes just a face to be seen, but with no action at all. So we want to just ask the president, if he has appointed a CS, let him be in charge of that docket. What I saw last time in the education ministry, that even the opening day communication had to be made from the State House. That is not something that we as Kenyans are waiting to see. If somebody has been appointed as the CS for education, let him handle the education from the ground all the way to where he is, just like the Uhuru government was. You as the president, you now have to have weekly meeting or monthly meeting to get the reports, and from the reports you can now come up with policies that can now make governance of a country become possible. But the moment you as the president, you want to run everything, I can tell you that we are going to still have mess. And when we have mess, I'm calling upon all the Gen Zs and millennials and anyone else, let us come up and rescue our country. There's no one else who will do it for us. But me and you, when we come up and tell President that, look, Ruto, this is what we want, then that is the way to go. So we may not really...
Please proceed.
We may not really expect much, but because they have fresh blood that have been injected into this, there are new energies, and maybe as the president, he has seen something. Let us give him time. If it is few days or few months or a year, let us see if there will be a chance for improvement, and if there's no improvement, let us get Ruto with the roots from where he is.
All right. Wanjohi, what's your parting shot?
First and foremost, this cabinet should not pass parliament. But then we don't have a parliament that will play its oversight role. So the most possible outcome is that it will pass through parliament. But I'm managing my expectations. I don't see, today the president is already back on top of vehicles. He's launching projects that ought to be launched by cabinet secretaries and permanent secretaries and governors, and really not the president, because the president at this point, we are talking about an economic crisis. We're talking about trouble now funding this year's budget, given that he has no finance bill. So he ought to be working, but he's already preparing for 2027. So I am not expecting anything from this administration. There are some very, very good people, even who are PSs, who serve as PSs. I don't know about cabinet secretaries. I don't want to even talk about the opposition, because in itself they have already killed opposition, and these are members of these are people who ought to be in parliament playing their role as opposition leaders. And so I'm managing my expectations, because I don't see the commitment from the president, and we see the fish rots from the head.
Right. Well, this conversation is a very big conversation, definitely much bigger than the time we have. But I'd like to believe there's been some insight served on this table tonight. And so I appreciate you, Wanjohi, and I appreciate you, Victor, for coming in tonight and sharing your insight and your views on this very, very big matter. We shall have you back on other conversations in the future, because this is something that's going to be with us for a while. Thank you so much for coming. Ladies and gentlemen, the questions were ours, the answers are yours. We hope that on Insight tonight you've gained a thing or two about the runnings of our country that we all love and we all live in. There's no spare country, it's Kenya. Better put our best feet forward to make sure that this country still remains after this. My name is Victor Muyakane. We've been joined by Wanjohi Njoroge and Victor Okuna, engineer. We want to say good night and God bless you. Up next is VAR, your weekly dose of turbocharged sporting action.